Restarted now. So we need to follow dharma. Dharma will give you facilities. With facilities, we fulfill our desires. And when we get disgusted, hopefully we get disgusted, we aspire for moksha or liberation. Right? So before we go to Panchama Purushartha, I will tell you what's happening in the modern world right now. So what's happening in the modern world, unfortunately, is no dharma, right? So when people don't do dharma, what happens? They should not technically get artha, but they are getting artha from previous karma. And so what all they are doing is they are just doing these two things. This they are not doing anymore. No dharma. Right? So let's change the color of that. So they are not doing this guy at all. And they are not interested in moksha. So what are they doing? They are just in this loop. Artha from previous karma. They are fulfilling their desires and they are dying without fulfilling the goal of human life. Right? And this is not just like in India or America or in almost universally. People are not following what needs to be followed. They're not following, simple as that. So what happens when you don't do this? There is no moksha. So you keep on taking birth again and again and again. So what happens is this. You again take birth, and whether you follow dharma or not, but you just fall in this loop again and again and again. So this is very important to know. This is why a lot of people are unable to take up to dharmic activity, because they have done so much of this kama or desires that when they get more artha, again they keep on doing it kama, and they taking this birth again and again. So we should not be like that. We should get out of this cycle. And more importantly, prema pumartha mahan. We should focus on love of God. And the process is very simple. What you are doing is one of the elements of hearing about God. Just like they show in movies, right? Boy and girl fall in love with each other. They get married. After some time, what happens? After the second pregnancy or something, the wife goes into amnesia. And the husband, she's like always randomly looking into the window here and there. And husband is struggling to bring her memories back. So what does he do? He'll take the wife to all the places where they had a good time, to the museums, to the parks, to the various places they had lunch and dinner. And slowly but surely, the girl's memory comes back. You've seen so many movies. I don't need to tell you. This is a very common theme in Bollywood, Tollywood, Malluwood, every wood. Right? So that memory has to come back. We have love in our heart for God. But right now, the heart has become like a desert. So we have to rekindle that love for God. And he's craving for it. He likes, just like, don't you crave that your kids love you? Same thing. So now let's go back here. Accumulation of wealth and economic development will not solve that problem. We see that around the world, there are so many facilities full of wealth and economically developed. Yet problems of material existence are still present. They are seeking peace in different ways. But real happiness only if they consult Krishna, who is the designer, right? If your Samsung fridge doesn't work, you have to go to the Samsung website and find out what you need to do, right? Your fan is not working, your light is not working. Similarly, if you want happiness in life, you have to consult the designer. and Krishna is the designer. So you cannot randomly say that I will make all of my decisions. You have to consult the designer. And then, okay, I need a volunteer to read this.
I can read, Prabhuji.
Yeah, go ahead.
If economic development and material comforts could drive away one's lamentations for family, social, national, or international inabilities, then Arjuna would not have said that even an unrivaled kingdom on earth or supremacy like that of the demigods in the heavenly planets would be unable to drive away his lamentations. He sought, therefore, refuge in Krishna consciousness, and that is the right path for peace and harmony. Economic development or supremacy over the world can be finished at any moment by the cataclysms of material nature. Even elevation into a high planetary situation, as men are now seeking on the moon planet, can also be finished at one stroke. The Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Shine punya martya lokam vishanti. When the results of pious activities are finished, one falls down again from the peak of happiness to the lowest status of life. Many politicians of the world have fallen down in that way. Such downfalls only constitute more causes for lamentation. Therefore, if you want to curb lamentation for good, then we have to take shelter of Krishna as Arjuna is seeking to do. So Arjuna asked Krishna to solve his problem definitely, and that is the way of Krishna consciousness.
Yeah. So there is only one thing. We have to take shelter of Krishna as Arjuna is seeking to do. That's it. It's not super complex. Arjuna is already setting the path for us, right? He's ahead of us and he is already setting the path for what we need to do. That's all we need to do. We have to take shelter of Krishna as Arjuna is seeking to do. Sanjaya Uvacha
Sanjaya Uvacha
Evam Uktva Hrishikesham
एवम्
एवमुक्त्वा ऋषिकेशं
Gudakeshaha Parantapaha
गुडाकेशः परन्तपः
Nayotsya iti Govindam
न योत्स्य इति गोविन्दम्
Uktva Tushnim Babhuvaha.
उक्त्वा तूष्णीं बभूवः.
So, who is reciting the Bhagavad Gita?
Krishna to Arjuna,
Yeah, but who is relaying this information?
Sanjaya.
Sanjaya. Remember, the very first verse was what in Bhagavad Gita? Dharma kshetre kurukshetre samaveta
समवेतयुत्सवः
mamaka pandavastheva
पाण्डवाश्चैव
Sanjaya.
कुर्वत सञ्जय.
So, who is inquiring from Sanjaya?
Dhritarashtra.
धृतराष्ट्र.
Dhritarashtra. Yeah, Dhritarashtra asked this question to Sanjaya, and Lord Krishna gave Sanjaya Divya Drishti, and he is going on. So we should not forget that the whole thing is being recited by Sanjaya to Dhritarashtra. Yeah. So there is a loop within a loop. One loop is Krishna and Arjuna are having this sambhashan where they are discussing. Second loop is Sanjaya is giving that information to Dhritarashtra. And the third loop is Swami Prabhupada is giving this information to us. Yeah, that's how it is. This is called Smriti. We are recollecting what happened 5060 years ago in the battlefield of Kurukshetra near Delhi. Sanjaya said, having spoken thus, Arjuna, chastiser of enemies, told Krishna, Govinda, I shall not fight. And he fell silent. So finally he gave up. He doesn't want to fight. Remember, we are still in verse 2.9. Until 2.11, Krishna doesn't even open his lotus mouth. He'll simply, prod or smile with Arjuna, but he doesn't give any advice. Okay, need a volunteer to read.
Dhritarashtra must have been very glad to understand that Arjuna was not going to fight and was instead leaving the battlefield for the begging profession. But Sanjaya disappointed him again in relating that Arjuna was competent to kill his enemies, Parantapaha, Although Arjuna was, for the time being, overwhelmed with the false grief due to family affection, he surrendered unto Krishna, the supreme spiritual master, as a disciple. This indicated that he would soon be free from the false lamentation resulting from family affection and would be enlightened with perfect knowledge of self realization or Krishna consciousness, and would then surely fight. Thus, the Dhritarashtra's joy would be frustrated, since Arjuna would be enlightened by Krishna and would fight to the end.
Yeah. So it is this kind of hilarious and comical here. Dhritarashtra was hoping that Arjuna would quit the battlefield and go away. But Sanjaya says, no, 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 he's Parantapa. He's very powerful, Dhritarashtra. He's going to fight. And Arjuna is going to, Krishna is going to convince him to fight. So he kind of diffuses Dhritarashtra's hopes. Tamuvacha Hrishikeshaha
तमुवाच ऋषिकेशः
Prahasan iva Bharatam
प्रहसन्निव भारत
Senayor Madhye
सेनयोरुभयोर्मध्ये
Vishidantam idam vachaha.
विषीदन्तमिदं वचः.
So, Sanjaya is continuing, O descendant of Bharata. Why is he saying, O descendant of Bharata?
They are from Bharat dynasty, or
Yes,
Bharat was
yes.
one of the.
Yeah, Bharat is at the head of our family. We are all considered Bharat Deshis, right? Bharat Vamshis. So Bharata is the head of our family for everybody who was born in Bharat Desha. And originally Bharat Desha was all of the planet Earth. So he's saying, O descendant of Bharata, at the time Krishna is smiling. He still didn't open his mouth. In the midst of both armies, spoke the following words to grief-stricken Arjuna. So from the next verse onwards, Krishna starts speaking. Okay, need a volunteer?
The talk was going on between intimate friends, namely the Hrishikesha and the Godakesha. As friends, both of them were on the same level, but one of them voluntarily became a student of the other. Krishna was smiling because a friend has chosen to become a disciple. As Lord, as Lord of all, he is always in the superior position as the master of everyone, and yet the Lord agrees to be a friend, a son, or a lover for a devotee who wants him in such a role. But when he was accepted as the master, he at once assumed the role and talked with the disciple like the master, with gravity, and it is required. It appears that the talk between the master and the disciple was openly exchanged in the presence of both armies so that all were benefited. So, the talks of Bhagavad Gita are not for any particular person, society, or community, but they are for all, and friends or enemies are equally entitled to hear them.
Yeah. So Bhagavad Gita is not for any particular person, society, or community. They are for everyone. But people, if with tunnel vision, they don't look right or left and they say, no, no, we don't need to learn Bhagavad Gita. No, it's relevant to everybody at every time, 5,000 years ago, now, and 5,000 years from now. Bhagavad Gita is always going to be relevant. And here Krishna is smiling because a friend has chosen to become a disciple, right? Sometimes there'll be friendship, and suddenly one person will say, oh, this is so confusing. Okay, now you tell me. I cannot think anymore. So that is the point at which we find Arjuna in this case. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha
Shri Bhagavan Vacha
Asosyananvasocastvam
Association
Swam
Prajna Vadamsha Bhasase
वादांश्च भाषसे
Gatasuna Gatasunamsha
गतासून गतासूंश्च
Nanu sochanti panditaha.
Nanu shochanti pandita.
Panditaha.
So prajna. Prajna means learned, knowledge. And vadan, right? In Telugu, vadinchatam means debate. Vadan means debate. So learned debate between these two individuals. Bhashase means speaking. Like in Hindi they say, right? Bhashan. वो भाषण दे रहा है. Bhashase means speaking. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, while speaking learned words, you are mourning for what is not worthy of grief. Those who are wise lament neither for the living nor for the dead. Means if you are wise, then you will not distinguish between living and the dead, because nobody dies. The soul never dies. The soul goes from body to body millions of times. Okay, need a volunteer?
The Lord at once took the position of the teacher and chastised the student, calling him indirectly a fool. The Lord said, "You're talking like a learned man, but you do not know that one who is learned, one who knows what is body and what is soul, does not lament for any stage of the body, neither in the living nor in the dead condition." As explained in later chapters, it will be clear that knowledge means to know matter and spirit and the controller of both. Arjuna argued that religious principles should be given more importance than politics or sociology. But he did not know that knowledge of matter, soul, and the supreme is even more important than religious formalities. And because he was lacking in that knowledge, he should not have posed himself as a very learned man. As he did not happen to be a very learned man, he was consequently lamenting for something which was unworthy of lamentation. The body is born and is destined to be vanished today or tomorrow. Therefore, the body is not as important as the soul. One who knows this is actually learned, and for him there is no cause for lamentation, regardless of the condition of the material body.
Yeah. So if somebody is actually learned, there is no cause for lamentation, because you will realize that the soul is eternal, right? So when our grandfather passes away, we cry. But when we have a child, we are very happy. But what is happening with the souls? They are continuously recycling from this family to that family to that family, like that. So there is no cause for any lamentation. Arjuna was thinking, I should not kill my uncles, my great grandfather Bhishma, my gurus. Of course, it doesn't mean that you will go and kill your neighbor now. It's only in a dharma yuddha that you are allowed to participate and kill, right? Lord Krishna first tried to stop the battle, but when it had to happen, it happened. Of course, in the grand scheme of things, it was Lord Krishna's design that this battle happened, because all the Kshatriyas were becoming very, very proud of their power. Kshatriya means, Shat means to protect. So Kshatriya should give protection to others. But if they don't give protection, then they are no longer Kshatriyas. They are just being selfish for their own facilities. They are fighting with each other, or even their own foolishness. They are fighting with each other. Kshatriya should fight for protection to the Jana or Praja. But if they don't do that, and not fighting is also another problem. They have to fight. That's why Lord Krishna is saying, you are a Kshatriya and you are in a Dharma Yudh, so you have to fight. So there are many points, right? Like as I was saying earlier, in one interfaith conference, one person was saying, your religion is very violent. I said, why? Because your God is asking people to fight with each other, which means he has no idea of what's going on here. Here the concept he has to go through the Bhagavad Gita to figure out, which is not easy, right? I mean, he has to be taught by somebody who is knowledgeable and willing to listen. Most problem, um the deepest problem is people don't want to listen. They want to form their own conclusions. But if you listen first and then you form your conclusion, that is good. But without listening, they will, with limited knowledge, like empty vessels, make more noise. So with limited knowledge, people will form their own conclusions, which is useless. Natve jatu nasam,
Natvevaham jatanasam.
natvam neme janadipaha,
Natvam neme janadipaha.
na chaiva na bhavishyamaha,
न चैव न भविष्यामः
sarve vayam atah param.
Sarve maya matah param.
See, the more you read Sanskrit, it sounds so sweet. Initially, we struggle a little bit, but as we are reading, it's a very compact language, right? To say the same thing in English will take more words. It's a compact and it's also sweet language. Lot of times, it ends with a ha, like janadipaha, bhavishyamaha. So it's a very, sophisticated language. So Lord Krishna is saying, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, Arjuna, nor all these kings who are assembled in the battlefield, nor in the future any one of us shall be ceased to be. Means, in the past they were there, they are there in front of you right now, and even in the future these people will be there. I mean, the bodies may go away, but whatever is there in the body, the deha means body, dehi means the person within that body, will always be there. Okay, so can somebody read this?
I will read, Prabhuji.
Yes.
Is it audible?
Yeah, perfect.
In the Vedas, in the Katha Upanishad, as well as in the Svetasvatara Upanishad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations, according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also, by his plenary portions, alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. The same Vedic truth given to Arjun is given to all persons in the world who pose themselves as very learned but factually have but a poor fund of knowledge. The Lord says clearly that he himself, Arjun, and all the kings who are assembled on the battlefield are eternally individual beings, and that the Lord is eternally the maintainer of the individual living entities, both in their conditioned and in their liberated situations. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is a supreme individual person, and Arjun, the Lord's eternal associate, and all the kings assembled there are individual eternal persons. It is not that they did not exist as individuals in the past, and it is not that they will not remain eternal persons. Their individuality existed in the past, and their individuality will continue in the future without interruption. Therefore, there is no cause for lamentation for anyone. The Mayavadi theory that after liberation, the individual soul, separated by the covering of Maya or illusion, will merge into the impersonal Brahman and lose its individual existence is not supported herein by Lord Krishna, the supreme authority. Nor is the theory that we only think of individuality in the conditioned state supported herein. Krishna clearly says herein that in the future also, the individuality of the Lord and others, as it is confirmed in the Upanishads, will continue eternally. This statement of Krishna's is authoritative because Krishna cannot be subject to illusion. If individuality were not a fact, then Krishna would not have stressed it so much, even for the future. The Mayavadi may argue that the individuality spoken of by Krishna is not spiritual, but material. Even Even accepting the argument that the individuality is material, then how can one distinguish Krishna's individuality? Krishna affirms his individuality in the past and confirms his individuality in the future also. He has confirmed his individuality in many ways, and impersonal Brahman has been declared to be subordinate to him. Krishna has maintained spiritual individuality all along. If he is accepted as an ordinary conditioned soul in the individual consciousness, then his Bhagavad Gita has no value as authoritative scripture. A common man with all the four defects of human frailty is unable to teach that which is worth hearing. The Gita is above such literature. No mundane book compares with the Bhagavad Gita. When one accepts Krishna as an ordinary man, the Gita loses all importance. The Mayavadi argues that the plurality mentioned in the verse is conventional and that it refers to the body. But previous to this verse, such a bodily conception is already condemned. After condemning the bodily conception of the living entities, how was it possible for Krishna to place a conventional proposition on the body again? Therefore, individuality is maintained on a spiritual ground and is thus confirmed by great acharyas like Sri Ramanuj and others. It is clearly mentioned in many places in the Gita that this spiritual individuality is understood by those who are devotees of the Lord. Those who are envious of Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead have no bona fide access to great literature. The non devotee's approach to the teachings of the Gita is something like that of a bee licking on a bottle of honey. One cannot have a taste of honey unless one opens the bottle. Similarly, the mysticism of the Bhagavad Gita can be understood only by the devotees, and no one else can taste it, as it is stated in the fourth chapter of the book. Nor can the Gita be touched by persons who envy the very existence of the Lord. Therefore, the Mayavadi explanation of the Gita is a most misleading presentation of the whole truth. Lord Chaitanya has forbidden us to read commentations made by the Mayavadis and warns that one who takes to such an understanding of the Mayavadi philosophy loses all power to understand the real mystery of the Gita. If individuality refers to the empirical universe, then there is no need of teaching by the Lord. The plurality of the individual soul and the Lord is an eternal fact, and it is confirmed by the Vedas as mentioned above.
Yeah, very good. So I think you understand most of it, but I want to touch upon a few things. This Mayavadi theory. So in the Mayavadi theory, after liberation, they say that all the souls will merge together into impersonal Brahman. Right? So this is a faulty theory. This is a faulty theory. So what they say is, I think I have a PowerPoint on this. If I can find it, I will show it. Karti, in this one I put in, I don't know, I put in somewhere. Maybe not in here, but okay, I'll explain it to you. So essentially, there are three ways in which you can understand the Supreme Lord. One is called Brahman, one is called Paramatma, and third is called Bhagwan. Like if you look at Islam, that is more like a Brahman religion. God doesn't have a form, right? It's just an energy. Then comes Paramatma. All the yogis, when they pray to the Paramatma within the heart. So the more yoga-based religions are Paramatmavadis. And then the third one is Bhagwan. Bhagwan means a personal form of the Lord. So in the third case, it is a person that we refer to, like Krishna, Rama, Narasimha, Vamana, like that. So there is substantial difference between these three different ways of understanding. Of course, they're all energies of the Lord, But understanding Brahman is a little lower level, Paramatma is a little higher level than Brahman, and Bhagavan is the highest level of the three things. So any questions on that concept? Because that concept is very important for us to be able to move forward. Right? If you see, the three layers are Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. So Brahman means the concept of God is everywhere, which is a good concept, but not the complete concept. So it is like the light of the Lord, light surrounding the Lord. Paramatma is God is localized in your heart and in every atom of universe. So this is localized form. Bhagavan is God is there in spiritual world, and he is also in, he also comes down as avatar. So which of these three forms is the best?
Bhagavan,
Bhagavan.
Why?
Because that's our ultimate goal, right? Going back
No,
to
that
the
is our
Krishna.
ultimate goal, but I'm not even if you don't know that that's your ultimate goal, why is it better?
Because it tells us that Bhagavan is an individual in himself, different from Brahman and different from just being in our hearts.
Yeah, your first part of the answer is correct. Second part, a little bit of correction is needed, because not really that he's different from Brahman or Paramatma. It is that the different levels of understanding, right? For
Okay.
example, if you have a steam engine, it's coming from far away. You only see the steam. When it comes a little closer, you can see the outline. And when the steam engine comes into the railway platform, you can see all the details. There's so many parts in a steam engine, right?
Yes.
So Brahman is like you're seeing it from far away. You see some smoke coming out, hazy smoke, some steam coming out, right?
Like the analogy of sun.
Yeah, same thing. We read it last time, remember? Sun,
Yes.
sun disk. So there are two analogies for that one. So if you look at the steam engine, nowadays they don't have steam engines anymore, right? So when it comes from far, you are seeing the smoke. But when it comes closer, you can see more detail. So this is like when it is from the far, all you're seeing is some kind of like an object is coming with a lot of smoke, right? It's a lot of smoke. But you don't know much detail. But when it comes a little closer, you can see more detail. That is like the Paramatma form. And when it's actually in the train station, then you can see that the steam engine is driven by some human being. It's not automatic. There are some human beings next to it. And there is also one more aspect to all of this: access. Access, right? This is difficult to access. This is somewhat easy. And Bhagwan is very easy because you can go to a temple and actually see his murti on the altar. So from an access perspective, very easy to understand God. And from a service perspective, can anybody say which is the easiest? Seva.
Third one.
Yeah, again, Seva is the easiest. The third one is the easiest. Why? Because who do you serve here? Who do you serve? It's very hazy, right? Takes a lot of effort to serve. Because then you have to understand that he is inside you. And the third one is again very easy. So what do? You
Chant.
cook nicely and you offer to a photo of Krishna or a murti of Krishna, and that is seva. You will take that as seva. To serve your Paramatma inside the heart, first you have to find him, right? You have to do so much of yoga to find Paramatma within your heart. Lot of effort. Can anybody think of any other dimension? Why the third one is easier?
Because we can give a form, because he is in akar, that we say he is not nirakar.
Right, right. So here it is nirakar. Here takes a lot of effort to find his form within the heart. This is science, as you can see. Religion is not just an emotion, it's a science. And then here there is a form. I know it is 8 minutes past 6 and a few people have dropped off. So you want to chant?
Yeah.
Okay, let's chant. Sri Krishna Chaitanya
Sri
Sri
Krishna
Krishna
Chaitanya,
Chaitanya,